Hey guys, Prof here. I'm watching the next show on the list for review, so I figured now's as good as any to get this out while I'm thinking about it. So, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the idea of the canon. Not like the canon that goes boom, but like the literary canon, like of Shakespeare, Walden, Love in the Time of Butterflies, I think it was. I'm thinking that's something else. I was just thinking about what the what the canon for anime might be. Like, what are the shows that might get added to this list of things that you have to, not so much that you have to watch or see to understand the genre, but were important to the development or just showed pinnacles of storytelling. And because I am a gearhead first and foremost, the first thing on the list of my personal anime canon, which is in no way comprehensive or canonical to anybody else's, is Gundam, the original Gundam 0079. Obviously, with as much of a splash as Gundam has made in Japan, across the world, I mean, even here, obviously in America, it's, I mean, you gotta have it. You gotta do it. To that notion, second on the list is Macross, because I think it's probably one of the peaks of non Gundam real robot storytelling, if that makes sense. I have to put big caveats on that, but it's just so good. The characters are fleshed out, like the love triangle you can take or leave, but the the story as a whole is so solid. Like, I can't think of anything like watching that show. I was just like, oh, this is so good. Like, no part of this makes me go, oh, I really wish they hadn't done that. Well, a certain exception of a certain character, but it's important for the story and the plot in general. So I can't really get too mad at what happens to Roy, but that's beside the point. And what lands it on my list is the impact it had in the States, first and foremost, with Robotech, and the fact that it's another one of these series that's still going after all these years. Like, that show came out in 1982. That's and the most recent Macross entrant in their series was 2008, and it's still going, and it's not Gundam. You may notice this is kind of sci-fi heavy. It might be because I love sci-fi, but I'm gonna make an addendum to the list now that I'm thinking about it. But the next one I have is Ghost in the Shell. That is an achievement in storytelling and animation in existence. I mean, like, it's still that movie is still informing what we think of cyberpunk to this day. Like, it's up there in as far as great sci-fi films. It's up there with Blade Runner. And well, obviously because Blade Runner is what it is, and Ghost in the Shell is kind of swinging off of that. But it's so good. The animation still makes me go, "Holy cow!" And the just the amount of stuff there is in it that you can grab onto and hang onto just makes me go, "Oh man, that's one for the ages." And it hasn't proven me wrong yet. Going somewhat in the other direction, Galaxy Express 999 or 39 or whatever you want to call it. Uh, well, I wouldn't call it exactly a pinnacle of animation because that stuff is rough. But then it also came out in the early 70s. Uh, Galaxy Express 999 is a series about machines and humanity and all these things that we as a society right now aren't really struggling with but could easily in the future. like, and in the not too distant future, I should say. And at the core of that story is a question about what it means to be a human being. And there are a lot of authors and writers and creators out there who attempt to figure out what that is, and very few of them do it quite as well as Matsumoto does in Galaxy Express 39. So that's what earns it its shot on the list. Oh no, things happened. The nice thing about doing this while I'm trying to watch Tekkaman is that, ooh, I'll let it slip. Is that there's really you don't really have to pay attention to the story about Tekkaman to know what's going on, which is why, incidentally, it's not in the canon list. But next in the list is Gatchaman. Well, it hasn't been nearly as successful as some of the other things in this list so far. It's amazing. Like, it does it does characters in a very simple way, but those characters have plenty of oomph and gravitas to them when the situation calls for it. And when they don't need it, it's not dark and brooding and overwrought either. It's a show that balances very nicely having fun and like real world issues, at least as much as a sci-fi series can. And the animation is pretty good. You know, even to this day, it's a little stiff. Obviously, it's not as pretty as some of our digital animation nowadays, but you know, I would still rather watch Gatchaman than I would watch, I don't know, whatever action show came out this month or in a couple of years past, which I think has contributed to its longevity, but it's also just that strong. Now, there was Gatchaman, there's Gatchaman 2, and then there's Gatchaman Fighter. And it kind of started to run out of steam because Tatsunoko doesn't really know how to end their own series if they're making money. And I point you to the Time Bokon series for more obvious evidence of this. But I think Gatchaman stands up in a crowd of, like, he certainly stands out in a crowd, and the characters in that are easily some of the better characters that were made during that early 70s period. Speaking of characters made in the early 70s, Cutie Honey is, I mean, I don't know what Gatchaman was technically an answer to, but if there was a girls only reply to it, that it would be Cutie Honey. Cutie Honey balances. It, here's the thing: Cutie Honey does the exact same thing that magical girls today do with the transformation sequences, the kind of dark storytelling, but still being cute and funny all at the same time. But she also fights in the same way that her male counterparts would later on. In kind of, I don't want to say hyper violent, but she's notably very violent in her dispatching of her enemies. Like, especially those first couple episodes where she's like cutting people up and setting them on fire. Like, Cutie Honey is not a happy character in a lot of situations, but I think that she is a good example of how you can balance violence and still being fun and funny and kind of, you know, I guess a little bit of the sexy times in there too. Third from the last on the list is Cowboy Bebop, and this is in no particular order, by the way. Obviously, Cowboy Bebop is what you show to people who aren't into anime to be like, this is what the genre is about. The animation is amazing to this day. The music is, I would say, almost like is, yeah, one of a kind. every bit of it, like, its weakest episode is better than 100 episodes of the strongest dumb shonen series or other kind of monster of the week series. You know what I mean? Like, it's so far above other anime in terms of quality that it's almost sickening. Like, it's almost not fair to other anime that this exists, and it was only made in 1998. And running running counter, not counter really, but running along with that. Speaking of shows made in 1998, Trigun. Trigun, I don't think gets nearly enough love these days, and deserves about 10 times more than it gets. And I think it should be on the literary canon, anime literary canon, because it's just that. I mean, I hate saying it's just that good over and over again, but like, it's almost indescribably good. The characters are the characters show a depth of humanity that you don't really see, and the characters that are the least human end up being the most human. I mean, it's minor spoilers if you know what I mean with that one. But you know, all this talk of showing how you can be redeemed over this course of your life, you know, trying to make amends for the things that have happened in the past. These are things that everybody can relate to, though maybe not everybody can relate to being a humanoid typhoon. All of these, all of these very human issues are presented in this kooky, funny, interesting, compelling plot line in this weird Wild West world that you don't see anymore these days, and it's a shame. But yeah, the core of its story is still just as strong and just as good as the day it came out. And because The Hobbit is in the literary canon, I'm throwing Slayers in this anime literary canon because that show is amazing. That show is an amazing example of how you can make characters that are kind of amoral some of the most entertaining and likable and fun characters, you know, that anime has seen. And at the same time, you know, show like, yeah, okay, Lena Inverse is kind of a crazy asshole, but when the chips are down, you know, she's gonna pick up and do what she's gotta. And like, especially like, I'd forgotten how high the stakes get in episode 7 of that series. And that's 26, 26, 26. So, you know, do the math, because obviously I can't. Like, that series starts strong and never lets go. Like, the characters that, like, the episode characters you can take or leave, but, you know, learning and watching Lena grow as a person and her relationship with these other characters, where she's initially this, you know, bitchy, angry, easily hacked off loner, and seeing just how much she ends up relying on this ragtag group of idiots that, you know, by all means they should have killed each other by this point, and yet they keep coming together and saving the world and doing right, even though, you know, when they should, like, when they're more focused on, you know, just filling their bank accounts sort of thing. It's just like, oh, yeah, hey, I guess you don't have to be a good guy to be a good guy, huh? That's pretty much all I've got for now. I'm sure I'll, you know, wake up this, like, in a cold sweat tonight and being like, why didn't I put that on there? Oh, I should have thrown that on the list too. But, you know, this is a work in progress, and you don't gotta agree with me. But I would like to hear you guys' ideas and thoughts and comments in the, you know, in the section down there where all the bad people go to make fun of me. So if you have anything, lay it on me. I'll take a look at it, and then we can start building this canon together. And I'll come back probably next month with your suggestions, and we'll see just where we are. All right. So until next time, this is Professor Otaku signing off.